Okay, we're back. I just watched WWE Raw, and there's just been something that's on happening on Raw, a storyline, a very subtle storyline, but an obvious storyline that's been taking place since about May. Really, that's just really starting to get my attention, and it's been creeping in really slowly, and it's becoming far and far more obvious that something is going to happen. And that's the storyline with Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, and Brett DiBiase. Now, if we go all the way back to when the Legacy storyline was formulating, when the rumors of a new stable was going to happen, and Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes teamed together, and then Orton came back onto the fold on Raw and was cutting these promos and talking about those two in particular, and then they did the angle when Orton kicked Ted in the head. I wondered why they did that, and I always thought, I think Ted's going to turn face. And a lot of people said, well, they're going to do it with him right away while he takes time off to shoot a film, and then when he comes back, he's going to be a face immediately. And I thought, I hope they don't do that. Anyway, they did bring him back and they teased a babyface turn on the night of his return, but instead he joined with Orton and Rhodes, and the rest is history. But this very subtle storyline since then has just been developing, and they've even got the material from the concussion storyline with Ted back then. And I've noticed that they are playing up to this Ted and Cody kind of sacrificing themselves a lot of times for Orton, like in the Royal Rumble. And the whole reason really Orton won the Rumble was because of those two. And while Cody seems to be under the spell, Ted is slowly showing signs of rebellion. And there was a skit on Raw, I think in April or May, where there was a backstage skit with the two of them, and Ted said something to Cody. There was I can't remember. I think it was something about the world titles. It was a little line right there, and Orton came in the room, and then the conversation changed. And bit by bit, they've been doing this. Like when they had Ted's dad on Raw on the $1 Million Man, and that was really good storytelling right there. They had Ted the $1 Million Man come in. He booked Cody Rhodes in a match against Mark Henry, and then he gave Ted a match against Orton. And it was interesting seeing Ted's reaction because on the one hand, he didn't want to do it. That was what they were doing, and he was furious that he had to wrestle him. But he did it, and he wrestled him. And it was a match that was very competitive. And I know it's a match really they should say it for a big pay-per-view, but they didn't spoil it by having it on Raw because it was competitive enough and it sowed some seeds there for the future. How Orton kind of struggled to beat him, and then they had Ted kind of do the angle with his dad where he slapped his father and got angry with him. But again, this storyline is starting to creep up again because again at excuse me there, again at SummerSlam they have now brought in Brett DiBiase, Ted's younger brother, and he ran in and he saved Orton more or less. And the next night on Raw, the story was getting a little more interesting, and I noticed it again how when Orton was doing the promo with the four of them, Cody seemed to be under the spell and was like, Orton would have won anyway. Whereas Ted was just showing signs of being out of the spell. And now adding his younger brother in, it creates this storyline within the group where I know they want to turn Ted face, and apparently it's going to happen towards the end of the year, but you can see the storyline progressing. And it was interesting saying he had no idea that his younger brother was going to run in and do that for Orton's match. And Brett kind of being apologetic, and how Orton was kind of coming across towards Brett kind of in a bullying-esque way, even though it wasn't direct, but the way he was looking at him and carrying on towards him. And it almost seemed like Brett was brainwashed by Orton. And then they did another skit backstage where the three of them were talking, and Orton came and told him to get out of the room. And it looks like we're going to have this storyline of Ted's face turn is going to be based on how Orton treats his younger brother. I think this is going to be an integral part of turning Ted babyface. And I think this is going to be something very interesting to watch over the next few weeks. I wonder what everyone else out there thinks of it. This very subtle but effective story that's been developing on Raw. This storytelling. Sometimes it's effective storytelling that can help create and lead to very big things. And I know they're on this creating new stars, and I mean, they couldn't go wrong with Ted DiBiase. The only thing really is promos, but that can develop in time because he can hold his own. But I mean, real, real promo, you know what I mean. Anyway, I mean, where was I? Yeah, effective storytelling. Effective storytelling like this is something that they need to use more of on Raw, and we've seen what it can do. It made a main event star out of Dave Batista. It's made stars before, and I think this is going to be very interesting. And hopefully, it can elevate Cody Rhodes, DiBiase, and DiBiase, and create some interesting stuff. So, anyway, anyone out there who watched Raw, who's been paying attention to this, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this turn. Do you think DiBiase should stay heel and boot Orton out and the group turn on Orton and make Orton face? Or do you think DiBiase should leave of his own accord and turn babyface a la Sting in the Four Horsemen angle in WCW? Anyway, that's it for me tonight. Tomorrow I'm doing an MMA video, so later.